Obviously, your most famous photo is the Afghan girl.
I knew this portrait was going to be really powerful.
Did you ever come into a situation where you feared for your own life?
I was at a hotel. I was the only person and the only guest. There was a knock on the door. And then I noticed somebody was trying to cut the screen of my room. I was on the ground floor and they had masks and guns and all that. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. This one guy got crazy and he saw me photograph and he came after me with a meat cleaver.
Oh, God.
Not a knife, a meat cleaver.
And you actually captured photos when the towers were going down.
I thought to myself, if I had gone down there earlier, like an hour earlier or half an hour earlier, I very likely could have been right there underneath the towers as they came down. I could have been crushed. We're literally in a ditch at the side of the road, just sort of pinned down, like praying that we're not going to get, hit by an artillery shell.
You have this beautiful photo of these men and they've got guns and they're in Afghanistan and they're picking the poppies. It's just unbelievable that you were able to kind of capture those things, which is like a part of their life. What was some of the most terrifying things that you saw? Steve McCurry, welcome to A Life of Greatness.
Pleasure to be here.
You just got off the plane. You were telling me literally a couple of hours ago you've come straight into the studio.
Yeah, I had a cup of coffee, had a couple of cups of coffee, so I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, and also you were just saying, which I find really interesting because you're obviously an amazing photographer who travels everywhere, that your daughter, who's 8, has basically been to nearly every continent in the world.
She's been 40 countries, the Arctic, Antarctica, Easter Island, Russia, China, India, the Galapagos 3 times. I'm not sure how aware that she's in Australia and how different that is from, say, Japan or Italy. She loves to swim and eat ice cream. But I think eventually she'll start to get the hang of the different cultures and different people and all that. Yeah.
So you grew up in Pennsylvania in 1950. Did your parents, when you were growing up, were they creative people? Was there a creativity within your childhood?
Actually, my father was an engineer. I had an uncle. He had a marginal interest in photography, but I would say there's really nobody in my entire family that was really creative. I was interested in drawing and painting at an early age, but I had really no curiosity about the rest of the world until I was like 19. And then I decided to go to Europe and live there for a year. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to travel and find some purpose in traveling. And then I went back to school and found photography. And so I had the sort of the purpose. I had, the travel, and then I had the kind of the way to make a living at it. So that all kind of came together. I was 22 or 23 at the time.
And I remember when I was younger at school learning photography, it was part of art, and loving it. And I found it so interesting. And then I don't know if they still do this, but, you were actually developing your own photos and that was so fun. And you go in the dark room and do that. And then I kind of took it up a little bit in later life and I was terrible at it. And then I remember going to this short course and it was like they were talking another language and maths is not my specialty. And I was freaked out by like everything they were talking about. And that was the end, unfortunately, of my photography career.
So they got very technical.
They got so technical, I couldn't follow. I literally couldn't follow anything they were saying. And I remember everyone in the class being able to follow it. And I felt like, oh God, I'm the only one that can't. And so I just, when that happens, you kind of think maybe this isn't for me. And I haven't picked up a camera except for my iPhone since, Steve.
That's such a pity because I'm so untechnical.
Are you?
I have no interest in the mechanics. I know enough to do what I have to do, what I want to do. But in terms of everything else, I'm really not at all technical. So it's a pity because the beauty of photography is discovery, it's curiosity, it's seeing the world in a different way. And the f-stops and the shutter speeds and trying to figure out depth of field and all that stuff, ISO film.
Yes.
It's like to me, that's really boring and uninteresting, and I don't really spend any time on that part of photography. I know how to kind of shoot and otherwise, I just fascinate with people. I know enough about light and composition to get the job done, but in terms of the mechanics of it, no interest. In terms of post production and all of that, I don't do any of that. You know, so yeah, I'm very I'm my skill in photography is very kind of narrow. I know how to make a picture, but in terms of the mechanical part, the technical part, that part doesn't interest me
Oh,
at
you
all.
give hope to us all.
Yeah.
From a creative perspective, what is it that you see, like, to pick a good picture? Because I think that is such a gift. And to know, I think that will look good. How does that come to you?
Well, I think you have people who are geniuses who are just gifted and naturally great. And there's other people like myself who we have to kind of learn and through trial and error and hard work. So I think when it comes to picture making, image making, a lot of it's trial and error. You go out and you shoot, several thousand or 100,000 pictures, and you eventually figure out what's working and you figure out the light, you figure out the composition, you fail over and over again thousands of times, and you learn from your mistakes, and you kind of get better and better and better. And I think that's the way you can actually get to a point where it's really interesting and you're making actually really good pictures. But it's all practice. It's all about practice, and it's hard work and learning to be comfortable with failure and pain and suffering, because when you're out there working, it's not always fun in a certain way. A lot of it's just getting out there, and it's a slog. But you love it. You never question. It's a passion.
Yeah.
And it's you just you don't. Somebody asked me the other day, "Oh, did you ever question? Did you ever think, well, maybe this was maybe I'd give up or something?" Never for a nanosecond did I ever think that, well, maybe photography is too hard, or maybe I'm getting bored, or maybe this isn't for me. No, never in an instant that I ever felt that way. But it is. You have to get up in the morning. It's like, I think it was Picasso said, inspiration has to find you working. You need, whether you're not in the mood or you're tired or you're whatever. No. You get up, you go out and you work, and as you're going, you get into that groove, and then inspiration will kind of come to you. But you have to be out there actually doing the work, and then you'll get get kind of inspired.
Because you have been in some of the most full-on conditions. I mean, a lot of your work is centered around war. You have been into very harsh conditions or natural disasters and things like that. Talk to us about the war side of things. You've been doing that for what seems like centuries now. How has that been for you, and can you give us some stories based around what you've seen and experienced?
Well, as when I was first starting out, not being able to get any assignments and kind of struggling, and I went to India on my own, paid my own ticket, living in cheap hotels. I was looking for stories, places that I thought would, interest me, fascinate me, and I just by coincidence, by chance, I happened into the war in Afghanistan. I was in a hotel, and some refugees said, "Oh, there's a war that's raging over the next mountain in our country." I was on the border, and they said, "We want you to come in and photograph it because you're a photographer, and we want our story told to the world." Of course, I was just some freelance. I didn't really have the wherewithal to tell their story, but I went in anyway, and I was able to make a lot of pictures and actually get them placed in magazines, the New York Times and the Associated Press. So actually, that was my kind of way of getting a foothold in the whole thing. But it was really a slog in the beginning. But it was I knew this was an important story. I knew Afghanistan. This was I met these farmers and shepherds that had this struggle against the government for various reasons, and I thought, they were fighting for their way of life and whatnot, and I just got hooked on the story and decided just to go back repeatedly and go back over and over again, and I just thought, the world needs to know about this conflict and who they are and what they're fighting for. And so I just went back, like 20 or 30 times.
Wow.
And
What year was this?
This was started in 79.
Yeah.
And then went back in a couple times in 79, and then 1980, and then went back for a much longer amount of time in 82, 83, and then up until 2016. But, I just thought, this is an important story. The people need to know about what's happening and what they look like, how they live, and all of that. So I just, I get hooked on a story, and I just kind of sink my teeth into it, like the Gulf War. I went there, went early when they invaded Kuwait, and I was in Lebanon during the Civil War, and then in Cambodia during the Khmer Rouge time. So I just, it's something about my kind of DNA that I need to, at least at that part of my life, I wanted to go and explore and see these places and see it for myself. I wanted a front row seat to see what was really happening in these countries from sort of my own point of view. And so I just went there and spent like years covering these areas of. It wasn't combat that interested me. It was the civilians and the children and the people who are caught in the middle of these conflicts. That's what I was really interested in, not in the combatants. I didn't, men who go off to war and with their guns and all that. That part wasn't, because they were volunteering most of the time. It was the civilians, the women and children who were kind of caught and it would have to flee their homes in the middle of the night because there was an invading force or whatever. So that's kind of. So I did that for 20 years, not continually, but on and off, until I came to the point where I thought, life is short and there's other things I want to explore in the world, other experiences I want. And I thought I better do that while I'm still alive and still in one piece. So I went to different places. I got interested in Buddhism and Tibet and traveled around a lot of Asian countries that have Buddhist cultures.
When you were covering the many wars that you had seen in the different countries, what was some of the most terrifying things that you saw?
Well, the Gulf War was my main sort of impression looking back, was this environmental catastrophe where they just fired all these wells, like 600 or 800 wells, and the sky just became black with smoke, and a lot of wildlife died, birds, migratory birds, camels, the zoo. They decimated the zoo.
You have some incredible photos of these animals just standing there, and behind them is like these huge flames and the sky is black.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something so eerie about that.
Yeah, that was, it was a terrible, I mean, just I can't imagine what got into my lungs breathing all that bad air. But just the wildlife who was just, just trying to live their lives, and all these birds that were flying over the Gulf from Africa to Central Asia, just in mass, just tens of thousands of birds just lost. So that was one part that. But I guess the other area of was the inhumanity in a war situation, particularly like in Afghanistan, where the indiscriminate killing of people, often that, like in Rwanda, where they're just neighbors and random people that are being killed simply because of their ethnicity or their religion, whether you're Shia or Sunni or whatever. So that was kind of a shock to kind of see that. But there's also a lot of you know people, the forces of good that were all around trying to help refugees and displaced people. So that was encouraging. So I tried to often concentrate on the people that were actually trying to do good and help these people.
Did you ever come into a situation where you feared for your own life?
Oh yeah, I mean in Afghanistan, you were always looking over your shoulder or going to bed and wondering if actually it happened once. I was at a hotel. I was the only person and the only guest, and yeah, there was sort of a knock on the door. I thought, oh, that's strange. And then I noticed somebody was trying to cut the screen of my
Oh,
room. I was on the ground floor, and I thought, oh no, this is not good. And so I eventually I realized they were going to come in from either side, whether I let them in or not. So I just opened the door and let them come in, and they had masks and guns and all that. And they could have very easily, killed me. But my it's so funny your reaction when you're confronted. So I had all my stuff all over the room, and so I opened the door, and they didn't speak their language. They didn't speak my language, and so I went to the bathroom. And I started brushing my teeth. It was just the weirdest reaction. I thought, okay, let them shop, let them go through my room, let them take whatever they want. I'm going to go in the bathroom and I'm going to pretend like I'm not noticing. And so I'm doing that, and eventually they took some whatever they wanted, my radio and some clothes and some food and sleeping bag, and then they left with all my stuff. But I was still alive, and my camera equipment was in another room, along with my passport. I put the passport under the rug. So, but that was but there were so many times where there's you're not actually at the front line, but there's bombs going off and there's incoming artillery rounds coming from all over, just indiscriminate, and you realize that even though you're not in that area of combat, you could be killed at any moment because there's bombs exploding all around. I was in the Red Cross hospital, photographing the hospital during one of these attacks, and they're just random, the bombs were going off, and the hospital was just overrun with people coming in, just kids that were playing in the neighborhood, or a woman who was cooking in her kitchen, and we literally were like pinned down. It's in afternoon, bright sunny day, and we're literally in a ditch at the side of the road, just sort of pinned down, like just praying that we're not going to get hit by an artillery shell. But again, I didn't go there intentionally to be in that situation. That was just sort of just happened while I was photographing in Kabul.
I mean, I would be worried that they would try and kidnap you or something and hold you ransom
Well,
for the government or something.
yeah, that was always a worry, always a worry. Always, yeah. You were never without some apprehension and feeling like at any moment. But you kind of work through that and try and work with good people, good fixers, good translators, people who know where to go, where not to go. And then at some point you just have to kind of just hope for the best and just, yeah. I always tried to have a low profile. I never went back to the same place twice. But I remember photographing, there was this woman who was helping drug addicts. There's a lot of drug addicts in Afghanistan because they grow the opium there. And so I went with her to photograph. She was helping these drug under a bridge. And this one guy got crazy, and he saw me photograph, and he came after me with a meat cleaver.
Oh, God.
Not a knife, a meat cleaver. And I just thought, okay, well, I got to go. now. So I literally just immediately walked
Yeah.
out of the situation because I thought this guy's on drugs and even though I was trying to document what she was doing, how she was trying to help, I thought I need to. But so there were a lot of cases like that where you're just suddenly you're confronted with, your car gets stopped and they want to take your cameras and everything and your money. And I was able to actually, believe it or not, they took my money and they took my camera bag, but we were able to talk them into giving me the camera bag back because I told them, my guide said, these are just there's nothing you can do with these cameras. We'll give you the money, give us back the cameras. And they did.
Wow.
When this is some time ago, they didn't even know what cameras were.
Yeah.
This is 30 years ago. And they gave the camera bag back.
You have this beautiful photo that I saw. I mean, you've got a lot of incredible photos, but you have this beautiful photo of these men, and they've got guns, and they're in Afghanistan, and they're picking the poppies for, obviously, to use as opium. And I don't know what it was about this photo, but I was like, it's just unbelievable that you were able to kind of capture those things, which is like a part of their life. But then it's so interesting that you say that there is like a lot with drug addicts there too, which would make sense considering look what
Right.
they have on their doorstep.
Oh, thousands. And it's cheap, it's accessible, and it's men, women, kids. Yeah, it's just everywhere because they grow it and they can refine it or whatever they do to make it into heroin from the pot, or they can smoke the opium. So yeah, it's a huge. I'm not sure what it's like now under the Taliban if they're reining that in,
Yeah.
but they're still growing. It's a big billions of dollars involved in growing this opium.
And obviously your most famous photo is the Afghan girl. And that's an incredible photo for anyone. I'm sure most people have seen it. They remember this girl's beautiful eyes. They're a kind of a mixture of green and blue and all these stunning, stunning colours. Tell us how that picture came about and what year was that you took that?
Well, that picture of this Afghan refugee girl was in 1984. And I was doing a body of work on the Afghan-Pakistan border. And at that time, there were like 2 or 3 million Afghan refugees living in neighboring countries, Pakistan, Iran. So I was going up and down the border, photographing the camps and the refugees. And one morning, I was in this one particular camp, and I was photographing rationing and whatnot. I was just about ready to leave to go to lunch, and I was walking past this school, and I heard the voices coming. And I thought, well, I had photographed a lot of schools. I thought, okay, well, let me go into this one school before I leave. So I go in and showed the teacher my permit from the camp, and I look around. And I saw this one girl, this Afghan, this Sharbat Gula, with these incredible eyes, this kind of piercing, kind of blue-green eyes, and I suddenly realized that this was the only picture I wanted to make from that school because I knew this portrait was going to be really powerful. So I thought, how can I do this? Let me figure out how I can get her to be in the picture without scaring her or whatever. So I photographed some of the other girls, and so to kind of show that this was okay, they were laughing and joking. So I photographed several girls, and then I asked the teacher, "Can I photograph her?" So that I didn't want to exclude her from the. So she came over and sat down, and I think a lot of her look was kind of curiosity and wondering, like, who is this guy? He's dressed funny. He speaks a different language. He has this camera. She'd never been photographed before. So she sat down in front of my lens, and I made 10 pictures or whatever. And then she just got up and left. I mean, she got up and went to join the other classmates. And that was the end of the shoot. and I wasn't sure if I had the picture in focus or if the light was right because it was film. I couldn't. It was in digital, and I worked with this really film which needed a lot of light. So I wasn't sure, and I kind of forgot about the picture for 6 weeks, and then I went back home and developed the film and saw the power of that picture because it's one of these cases where the light was beautiful. The background was great because it complemented what she was wearing. The color worked really well. The expression was really powerful. These eyes were very piercing. And so it worked on a lot of different levels. Her expression was a bit ambiguous, kind of mysterious. It wasn't a smile. It wasn't a frown. And it was somehow people just connected with that picture. And there was a sense of resilience. There was a sense of, pride and dignity to the picture. So it's a picture which has really kind of stuck with people over all these years, and there's an authentic quality to the picture, something that can't be replicated.
What was the first publication to publish that picture?
That was first published in National Geographic.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, in 1985, June 1985, and then it just sort of picked up steam and other magazines and the newspaper exhibitions, and it just has been published around the world probably thousands of times.
Wow.
Yeah, and now she's living in Germany.
Is she?
Well, we
I saw you went back to find her, but it took a bit of time.
Yeah, we went back to find her in 2002, and then when the Taliban came in, she wanted to leave, and so we were able to help her get to Italy.
Oh, wow.
And now she's moved from Italy to Germany. So, that was her decision that she wanted to leave. So we thought, well, we'll try and help you as much as we can. But Afghans have had a hard time of it for a long time.
Oh, they have, and the women especially. My God.
Yeah, even today with the lack of education. So it's I think it's important. Photography is a universal language. It's something which you can learn about people, and especially myself, going to these places, I can actually meet people that are different than myself, and I can see how they live and talk to them about their lives. And so I think it's something that we should all do, is to get out of our comfort zone and go to places and meet people, and go to places that we've always heard about. Go to a Muslim country or go to Vietnam, because my whole life, Vietnam was this terrible place. But I went there, and it was actually great. Beautiful people. I loved it. I've been back a couple times since. So I think that travel is really important to learn about the world we live in, and learn about cultures, wildlife, animals. I'm a big animal advocate. And by the way, I'd like just to say that I have some of my work is in Australia, at the Leica Gallery.
Yes.
in Sydney and in Melbourne. So if you have a chance to go stop by, it's a great gallery, and yeah. So,
and there's something about photography that again, when I was looking at your work the other day, I was like, it just draws you in, and it's just I love photography so much. I think it's such a beautiful medium. And I think especially the photos that you've taken, because they are from everywhere around the world, but from places like Afghanistan that we don't have, a lot of people don't have the ability to go there right now. The Taliban is, taken hold of that country. It's not safe. You're giving us a lens into what it looks like there, which is important, I think, for the world as well. And I wonder, have you ever been to North Korea or kind of gone into that area? Because that's also, they don't allow any photography or anything to come back from there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to North Korea and to Iran. The problem is that I travel on an American passport, so that's already a problem. The other thing is that they have this habit often of holding you for ransom as a political pawn or
Yes.
whatever. So I'm not. I don't want to get into that. Although I think it would be fascinating to go to both Iran and North Korea. I think once you go there, you see that. I mean, Iran's a great country, great people.
Mm.
Uh, I think if we were there today, we would see, they have great art galleries, and I think this life on the street would seem pretty normal. I've had Iranian friends going
Mm.
back into college, uh, and I think that we would think, well, wait a minute, this isn't this is great. This is I'm not sure about North Korea on the other
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah.
uh, but I do think that we would go there and there would be a sense of normalcy to some extent, but you're also limited to what you can see
Mm.
and all that. Even so, I would absolutely go, but I'm just a bit worried about safety
Mm.
at this point in my
Yeah, for
life with
sure.
my
Of course.
with yeah.
Um, 9/11, New York is your home, and you were in New York when that happened, and you have a lot of photography, a lot of photos that you captured of the devastation. I mean, you actually captured photos when the towers were going down. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I just come back from China literally the night before. I got home, put my cameras on in the corner, went to sleep, woke up the next morning. My building was very close to the World Trade Center. So I went down to my office and we got a phone call and somebody said, "Oh, the World Trade Center is on fire." So there had been a fire there 20 years before, or maybe 10 years before, and I hadn't gone down, even though I was in New York. So I thought, okay, now I got to go down. Actually, both towers were on fire. So I sort of, let me go on the roof of the building and photograph them from this high vantage point from my apartment building. So I'm shooting away, and I keep shooting. And I felt, okay, well, now it's time to go down and photograph. And then lo and behold, as I'm actually looking through one of the towers collapses, and I thought that's impossible. This is like a dream. This is, and I looked. No, I'm not asleep. This actually happened. And so then I kind of went on automatic pilot. I I thought, well, if the first tower collapsed, probably the second tower will collapse. So I got another lens, and as this other next tower was collapsing, I photographed it as it was going down. And then I thought, okay, now we myself and my assistant, we have to go down right now. We have to go. So the roads were all blocked off, but we were able to figure out a way to get around the roadblocks, and we got right down to ground zero. And there was a lot of hostility against photographers, but I just thought, this is such a historic day, and I was like completely freaked out that suddenly, like almost in my neighborhood, there was this attack, and when I was down there at ground zero, it looked as though the entire lower Manhattan was gone, the way it looked, and I thought, this is life changing. I mean, this is going to change. I mean, now the city is, this is irreparable, and this is like Pearl Harbor. This is like some, and I just stayed the entire day down there, and the next morning got up, and there were all these doctors and ambulances and everybody standing by to help the wounded. No wounded, no bodies. It was just smoldering steel and all this dust in the air. And so I did what I could, and then went home and got up the next morning at 3 a.m. and went back again and kept photographing. And then they kicked all the photographers out. We had to leave, but it was so traumatic. I mean, it was something which my brain couldn't process.
Yeah.
It was so overwhelming that it was just, my brain would like exploded, because it was just something I couldn't believe that it just happened in New York. Just, I mean, every time one would drive into the city, that was part of the skyline, those two twin towers, and now they were gone. And it was like, it's just impossible that just happened. It can't have happened, but it did. And so for weeks after that, the smoke from from ground zero would kind of waft up into my building, and you could smell the smoke in the neighborhood. It was just, and then every time you drove into the city, that skyline was forever changed. So it was probably the most powerful moment in my photographic career to actually witness that. And I as when I was going to go down there in the beginning, I thought to myself, if I had gone down there earlier, like an hour earlier or half an hour earlier, I very likely could have been right there underneath the towers as they came down. I could have been, crushed because I wanted to
Wow.
go down. I thought, now I got to go down, but so.
It must have been so hard because that's your town as well.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, devastating regardless, but that's where you live.
yeah. The planes went right down the Hudson River, and my apartment was. It's just a couple thousand meters from there.
Mm.
It's just if they had gone a little bit this way or that way, they would have flown right next to my building. So it was like, wait a minute, this is like an attack on my home, on my
Mm.
neighborhood, on my city, and so it was like really personal in that sense.
There's this photo that I saw from 9/11 that you took that was it's like the rubble is huge, and there's this huge, just like, I mean, mountain doesn't even do it justice, but it was like a mountain of like debris. And then I think it was like a firefighter or something kind of standing on
Oh yeah,
top of it. And you just can't imagine that that would happen. I mean, when you look back at those photos, is there one that sticks out to you?
I think that's the one that I think is the most powerful. It was the next morning, and the sunlight's coming in the city through this smoke. It's kind of red in some areas, and all this smoke, and these little teeny figures of men that are so insignificant compared to this overwhelming the debris, that it's just this sort of epic kind of end of the world sort of cataclysmic kind of scenario, which it's like we're so helpless to kind of in this overwhelming scene. That to me was and again, it just seemed like the entire part of the city was gone, and turned out it was just that block, but we weren't thinking straight, and we couldn't see, and through all this smoke, it just looked like everything was gone.
Wow. I wonder, Afghan Girl is obviously one of your most famous photos, and this will probably be very hard for you because there are so many, but do you have a favorite photo?
Well, I like different pictures for different reasons. Some pictures were really difficult to get. You walked for 2 or 3 days, so you have this emotional attachment to those. And other pictures you don't particularly like, other people love. There's a couple. There's women. I did a story on the monsoon, and there's these women that are in this ferocious dust storm. They're huddled together, kind of singing or praying for rain, and that's I think a powerful picture for me. The kind of a poetry of this dust storm, and yet these women huddled together. So that graphically and sort of, I think it's a strong picture. That may be one of my favorite.
There's a great picture of you, I don't know who took it, where there was some sort of flood,
Oh yeah,
and you've got the camera almost like on your head, trying not to get it wet, but maybe taking a photo as well, trying to take a good picture. Where was that?
that was in Gujarat in India, in a place called Porbandar, and yeah, the city was underwater for like 3 or 4 days, and I was just walking around the streets, photographing people who, because this is years ago. There was no, well, they were just there was no place to go, so they were stuck in their homes. So I was just walking around the streets, getting people coming and going, and it was. I wish I had spent more time there because it was really a powerful situation with people trying to get out to buy food or whatever, up to their neck in water, and it was hard to work because you couldn't see. I had to shuffle everywhere because you didn't know where if there was a hole or if there was a ditch or the road was uneven, so you couldn't really walk. You just had to shuffle everywhere. So I had the camera bag, and I didn't want the cameras to get, wet. So it was really, and then all the water was unimaginably dirty. So you're just, and I go back to the hotel at night and disinfect myself, and then get ready to go out the next morning and spend the whole day. I mean, I'd come out at sort of lunch, but you're all shriveled up because of the. It was powerful pictures, but not a fun time to be.
Did you get sick much being in those different conditions?
And surprisingly, I didn't get sick at that time in the monsoon rains. I got sick many times in other places in India, Egypt, and other parts of the world. And I think that's just different kind of water, different kind of food. It could be something in the air. You never know. But yeah, getting sick in a foreign country and going to the hospital, or getting rabies shots, or getting vaccination. The guy pulls this. You're on the border of he pulled the drawer out of his desk and had a hypodermic needle. He said, well, you can either get the shot here or you can go back to some town, which was like another day away. And I thought, okay, well, I'll take the shot out of your desk.
That's so funny. I wonder, you said that early on that you were studied Buddhism. I wonder what made you want to study that, and is it to do with anything that you've seen on your travels?
Well, I think the serenity and the kind of contemplative quality of being visiting monasteries and monks who are trying to, it's all about introspection and meditation and self-improvement, or trying to come to terms with their spirituality and their lives and humanity. Everything's kind of quiet, and that I really still enjoy, as opposed to some place that's kind of nerve-wracking and noisy, and you're always on edge. I like that because there's something about the statues of Buddha, which are all over the Buddha. There's always the look. It's always serenity, and it's very peaceful, and forgiving and accepting and all that. And I find that soothing. And I find the whole experience. And even though they have this very monastic kind of ascetic life, they always have this sort of there's a playfulness about them, and there's a twinkle in their eye, which I've always been really amazed at. That even though they're this life of hardship, not hardship, but it's to get up early, and it's very they like 2 meals a day, and it's a lot of work, but still they have a really great attitude. And I find that very inspiring.
It must be quite amazing that you would have traveled to all these different places, like India, a lot in Thailand, Vietnam. I mean, even in the mosques, potentially synagogues. I don't know where you've been, but I think there's something, I know I find this when I go to those different places. I just feel like, wow, there is like a beauty in a lot of them, and you feel like entranced when you're in there. A lot of these structures are so beautiful as well. And like you're in there taking photos. What has your experience been in these kind of like different religious and spiritual settings?
Well, I'm with you on that point about I was in St. Peter's at the Vatican just a month ago, and it's like the beauty and imagine walking into St. Peter's, 200 or 300 years ago, when the whole town is like 1 or 2 stories. You would really feel like you had died and gone to heaven. It's really quite overwhelming. As some, I was in Istanbul recently, and you go into the Hagia Sophia, and it's just overwhelming, and it's quiet, and people are praying, and it's just just it's so beautiful. So yeah, these places are. I've always gravitated to those kind of places. Whether you're whatever your faith is, I think that it's always great to go there and experience that serenity and that beauty.
I know, and I find when I'm traveling and I've gone into, different places of worship, it doesn't matter what religion or faith you are. I find it so interesting just to watch people and watch how they pray. And there's like definitely a vibration shift that happens as well. Like the energy, it's like palpable in those rooms sometimes. If you're there when people are praying or chanting, it's quite incredible.
Yeah. No, I always make a point to go to these places when I'm whether it's in the Muslim world or the Christian world or in the Buddhist world. That's really something I've always seek out those places and definitely go there and spend time.
I wonder, do you have a favorite place that you've been to along your many, many travels?
Well, I like photographically. I love Tibet. I like Myanmar. If I could wave a magic wand and go anywhere, next week, I'd probably go to Tibet. It's changed a lot, but I'd still probably want to go there. Italy is a place which, it just for other reasons other than photography, the culture, the food, the architecture, the art. I don't think any place in the world rivals Italy for all of these things. The people are wonderful, and so I go there sometimes 2 or 3 times a year for different projects. So I kind of gravitate more towards Asia, I would say, than other parts of the world. Although I've traveled extensively in Africa and South America. Funny enough, the place I haven't really explored that deeply is my own country. I probably spend more time photographing Australia than I have in the U.S. I think that in life you just have to go where what inspires you and what and not feel compelled to go to a place just because you haven't been there, because somebody's telling you that you need to build your portfolio in this direction or that direction. I've been to multiple places many times. India, I've been to there like maybe 80 times.
Wow.
So I don't go to places for any other reason than just I'm just want to go there and go back to the same place or see it, go to places I haven't been to before.
What were you taking photos of in your time in Australia?
Oh, I photographed in the monsoon up in the northern province, Northern Territory. I was with an Aboriginal group photographing their life during the monsoon, during the wet season. And then I was down around Perth photographing some mining and some I think that was for the Australian Tourist Commission or something. This is 25 years ago. And then I did some shoots for other clients in Australia at a cattle ranch. That was fun.
That would have been good.
That was amazing. I don't know, the thousands of sheep.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It was really interesting. And then odds and ends here and there doing different things. But no, it's always great to come back here. It's one of those places which if there's an opportunity to go to Australia, yeah, that's great. Let's go. Let's go and spend some time. Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder, Steve, what is something that you wish for yourself?
I think just more of the same. I think to try and continue to improve, to be a better father, to be a better husband, to be a better photographer, to go and try and work outside of my comfort zone, and not to be complacent. I think that's kind of to continue to be motivated and to continue work. I think that's, but everything I'm doing professionally, I feel pretty good about. I just don't want to be complacent and sort of rest on whatever success I've had. I want to continue to move forward.
Do you have a favorite prayer or saying or mantra?
No deed goes unpunished. No, that's not the. I think there's one about persistence, the famous one by Teddy Roosevelt about persistence being because you get beaten down, but you have to move forward, and you can never allow yourself to be negative because that's the kiss of death is to get into a negative space. You have to always be positive, and failure is an opportunity, and you can't ever allow yourself to get into a defeatist. You always have to be moving forward. No regrets. I mean, are there things we could do differently? Of course. I know Orson Welles said he had more regrets than sand in the world, but I think that we have to. You can't dwell on it. In fact, can't even. You something happens. You're positive, move forward, but no looking back in terms of anything that's negative.
Yeah.
So I think that's. So I feel good. There's always room for improvement. I think you always have to try and up your game in terms of your being a person, your profession. But I think I'm doing pretty much the best I can at the moment. But it's
It must be also like in the profession that you're in, it's art, so it's all like perspective as well. So some people love it. I'm sure your work, some people don't. You might think a photo is the most incredible thing, and then you might get people saying, no, it's not. And that could be quite difficult.
One of my pictures.
Well, just generally because of any photographer might have that.
Criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
that
think
could be hard because it's like,
well,
who knows what's good? Do you get what I mean? Like art is
exactly. Yeah, I get people saying you're great. People saying, well, this isn't that great. This picture's boring or whatever. I think you have to just take it all with a grain of salt, and just do the best you can, and it all kind of evens out. You're not that great, and the pictures, some of those pictures they're criticizing are actually pretty good. They just don't understand the picture because maybe they don't have the sophisticated eye. So yeah, you got to take all that with. I think if I feel like blessed that people have responded to my work in a positive way. All my pictures aren't great, but I think that I'm doing the best I can. And but going back to that quote again, I think the Picasso quote of "inspiration has to find you working." I love that because even when you're not in the mood to work, you still got to go out and work. It's never a question. It's never a debate. You get up and you go and you go out and work. It's not like, well, I'm not in the mood today. I think I'm going to stay home and relax and watch a movie on TV. No, you got to get out and do the work.
That's so true. And our final question, what is a life of greatness to you?
I think leaving the world a better place than you found it. I think showing in my way the world and hope to educate people, enlighten people, or to show that wherever you are in the world, the people are that we're all this common race where that we have this shared humanity. And I think if I've been able to accomplish that we have that shared humanity, and that we all want the same thing in the world. We want the best for our family. We look forward to the weekend with our friends, and we want health, good health for I think that kind of sums it up for me.
Steve McCurry, thank you for all of the beautiful pictures that you've put out into the world, and documenting things that can be very hard sometimes for people to see.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.